Thank you, Mike.
In the wake of a disturbing racist video from members of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity at the University of Oklahoma, as well as allegations of racist emails from a former University of Maryland fraternity member, many are left wondering how a person or organization could spew such hate.
And while we may never know the answer to that, we can take a closer look at the psychology behind those hurtful words and the vulnerability college-age students have to that pack mentality.
Here to share her thoughts is Cindy Crane, a clinical social worker. Good morning, Cindy.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Cindy,
go ahead.
What struck me was that it's surprising that the younger generation is spewing such hate and that this trend is continuing, because now I feel we have more interracial dating, interracial marriages. It seems more accepted, and so it's very scary to see this sort of happening in our younger culture, right?
Yeah, it is. It's surprising, and it's not, I think, the norm. I would like to believe it was the actions of a few in a broader situation, and but it highlights that this is still an issue for us as a country.
Well, let's talk about pack mentality. First of all, define what is the pack mentality?
Well, it's a type of social influence. It really is the decisions of a very few that the rest of us follow, and the actions of deciding to go with the crowd.
So essentially peer pressure, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
And something to note that's important about college-age students is that they're at a very impressionable age. There is a lot of pressure just simply to fit in, and you could say the same is true in high school, but I think it becomes even more relevant in our early 20s as we're trying to develop our sense of identity.
But then you have these instances in colleges where people join fraternities and sororities,
Yeah.
further getting into groups because they want to belong. How much more does that make them susceptible to perhaps exhibiting these types of behaviors we're seeing, unfortunately?
I think that's a great question. I think that is a big part of the influence, is wanting to be part of a small club and knowing that there are some competitive components to that. But to the broader picture of looking at college life in general, we're all trying to adopt who we are to the different kinds of clubs we want to be part of.
Right.
So often it's the weakest of a group that may be the most impressionable. And of course, when you have alcohol or drugs involved, that's going to further help people make bad decisions sometimes.
Right.
But at some point, you got to hope that a student would step up and say, hey, look, this isn't right. Because not all are going to follow this trend here or be influenced. So is there that glimmer of hope for young
Absolutely.
people?
And I think there's several things to think about in terms of all people going into situations where they sometimes feel challenged to make their own decisions. So we have sort of a checklist of some things that people should consider taking with them when they go into any kind of social situation.
Yeah, I know we've got this list up here saying, check your own moral compass, make a decision
I love that
tree.
one. That one's a reality check with yourself,
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us have a sense of what we know is right or wrong. And when a whole crowd is swept into doing something, we think, well, maybe we're just the odd duck out and we're the one who's wrong. But no, you know what your sense is of right and wrong, and you can step aside from the crowd and be part of it or leave.
It's so hard. I mean,
is,
especially when you're with your friends. I mean, we've all been part of this.
But this is what we teach our kids.
Right.
This is what we've been teaching our kids as they've been going through the process.
But even as adults, we find that it's so difficult, you know? So really, how do you break through that? I know we talk about it and we want to say, okay, check your moral compass, but the reality is, my goodness, that could be so hard.
I think it's part of a bigger plan. If you have a plan for how you want to live your life in a way that is also influenced by decisions and behaviors of others, you say to yourself, this is my exit strategy, this is when I'm out.
Yeah, and we all come from different backgrounds, walks of life, and I think that's right. It's the bigger picture of knowing, hey, this is the kind of life I want for myself. The experiences you've personally had, I mean, we've all experienced some sort of racism, prejudice, whatever in our lives, and so you kind of have to do that self-evaluation.
It's also the power of speaking up when you know something is wrong.
Right.
You
I love that.
I just don't think you're ever going to go wrong if you can remember that.
I love that. Great final words.
Discussion. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cindy
Thanks
Crane,
for
as
having me
always, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks.